four prices over time. So just to give you an overview of this data set, it starts from 2023 up until end of 2025. So we want to monitor the trend, particularly up to the point where subsidy was removed, and see how that looks like, how the curve went before subsidy and after subsidy. This is a very relevant practical classroom because it's something that a lot of us can relate to, even down to our individual lives. So that particular data set is PMS prices. You download it, just like what we've been doing. You create a new workbook. No. Okay. For now, the one that we need is the PMS prices. By zone is for a different graph that we might plot later. But this first graph is PMS prices. You create a new workbook or notebook, sorry. You can name it A8 visualization. At this point, you also know how to import your data or upload your data rather, and also import some of the libraries we need. So remember, this one we're plotting the graph primarily with Matplotlib, so we don't need to import Seaborn. Okay, so before I go further, just the warning today, we're going to see a lot of new code. Yes, and some of us might get confused, but don't get. Before I go further, I want to explain two fundamental concepts that occur with Matplotlib and its own visualization. So there are two concepts here. There's the fig, which represents the figure, and the axis. Those are two separate entities. The figure is the entire canvas. So when we say fig size 10 and 6, what we're indirectly saying is the size of the canvas we want to use. We want the width to be 10 inches and the length to be 6 inches. So if, for instance, if I change that 6 to 10, you see now it looks more like a square, 10 by 10. So the figure is what you use for it. Everything is housed under the fig. If you want to export it, for instance, as a picture, what you're exporting is the fig, not the axis. Now the axis is contained inside this canvas. And why I'm explaining this is because you can also have instances where you have two axes, which means you're plotting two tables inside this one figure. Do you understand? So that's why the two are separated. Remember I said with Matplotlib now you can control practically all the granular aspects. So that's why this is just like a drawing board and you say, okay, I want to draw one graph here and one graph here. In that case, we'll have two axes. So I just needed you to understand so that when you say speed, comma, ax, you know that we're talking about two separate things. One is the overall template, or let's say drawing paper. Then the other one is the axis. So from here to here now speaks to ax. So anything within here to here into its ax. Anything outside this area, we're using fig. Do you understand? Yes. Anything, you see this box, that's why I didn't even draw any graph yet. You see this box, 1.0 to 0 to here, where you have this whole line. I think it's still flat line. Yes. It still proceeds to here. So anything within this black line here, we're using the ax to control it. Anything that goes beyond the black line, let's say, for instance, let me give you a typical example. I can choose to name the title of my graph both in the ax and in the fig. If I use the ax command to name the title, it means it's going to be within this area. If I use the fig, it means it's going to be above, way above this area, because now I'm referring to the entire figure. Does that make sense? Yes, please.
Please, before you go further, you mentioned that there are two concepts that comes with the Matplotlib library. So I just want to just spell out the two concepts so that we'll know that this is what you are talking about.
So that's what I'm explaining.
Okay.
Because that's what I have written here. Maybe let me just zoom this in so that.
Okay. The PMS and okay.
Yes.
The PMS and the
no. The ax and the fig.
Ax and the fig. PMS is our data that I told you to download from Google Drive. I'm just reading it, which is what I've been doing since day 2.
okay.
But everything above here, you're already familiar with it and what it speaks to. So this is the first line that I've introduced that is different from what you're familiar with, and that's what I'm explaining. That's why, for instance, here, what we are saying is plot, give me a space to plot graphs and let the size be 10 inches by 6 inches. The reason why we can do that is sometimes you might be plotting a graph that you want, it's not meant for, let's say, paper report. It's meant for a poster. You understand? So if you use a small size, It means when they export it and they now want to carry it for print, by the time they stretch it, the resolution would also reduce. So once you have already defined here that, let's say that poster now is 50 inches, you define here from your figure size, let the figure size be 50 inches by 30 inches. Already, the paper it will create for you would match that 50 inches by 30 inches. When you're now exporting, and you export based on that size, and you can even specify the resolution that you want to export at, it will export it with that quality, so that by the time they're going to print it out, it doesn't lose quality. If it's for, let's say, a normal report on PDF and all that, you don't need something so big. You can use something smaller. It will also match the resolution and everything. Yes, please.
Okay, so for clarity purpose, what you're saying is that, yesterday we've been saying import pandas, NumPy, then matplotlib, and then seaborn.
Yes.
Now we'll have to kind of remove the seaborn from today's zone, or still include seaborn.
So, understand what today speaks to. Yesterday, I was showing you how to use Seaborn to do visualization, which is like me teaching you how to drive automatic car.
That's just the first thing.
Today, I'm teaching you how to use matplotlib to do your visualization, which is like me saying, okay, fine, you've learned automatic, come and learn manual. Now, the idea is by the time we're done, you now know how to drive both automatic and manual. If you now choose that it's automatic, you want to be driving, that's fine. If you choose it's manual, you want to be driving, that's fine.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. It's the same thing. Like yesterday when he teach us Seaborn, we didn't alter anything here. This place, it will come automatically. But now that he started showing us, you can increase the outside of the figure, and you can increase or decrease the inside of the figure. So everything now turned to manual. Yesterday we give everything to Seaborn.
Apart from the axis.
Apart from the axis. Seaborn will just do everything. That's what he's saying.
So, but under Seaborn, can you also customize it? Like, can you customize the width and the?
So if you're customizing it, you're using a matplotlib library to customize it, not Seaborn. You understand? So what we're doing here is just, you know how painters want to paint. Sometimes they might be painting on a small drawing board. Sometimes they might be painting on a wide drawing board. This particular command is just explaining what is the size of my drawing board that I want to paint on. Before we even start any other thing, it's like, this is the size of the painting that I want to do.
You said the outer side is the idea, and the inside is the idea.
So, you know what axis means? You know what axis means when they say y-axis, x-axis. So just imagine anytime you see this axis, this already will tell you that this is an axis. So what I'm saying is, anytime I want to do any manipulation that involves an act within the axis, you understand? I will be making reference to this AX. So you might see certain codes that have AX dots. That's why I'm explaining this. So that by the time I start typing and I say AX dot blah 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 blah, you understand first of all that it is acting on the axis. If for whatever reason you see fig dots, you understand that that code is referring to the entire figure. And the reason I said this is that in my own drawing board, I can decide that I want to break the drawing board into two. And on one half, I'm painting one thing. On another half, I'm painting something totally different. But it's the same drawing board. You understand? So that's the idea between fig and axis. Now, I'm just choosing to paint one picture in one drawing board. But it's still possible that I paint multiple pictures within one drawing board. You understand? So have we copied the code up to this point?
No.
Is there anyone that hasn't copied? comment. At least this is how I understand it. So if you want to go more detailed than this, it's fine.
Okay.
So before I proceed, I just once again wants to give us a little visual about our table. All I just did was what we're already familiar with to preview the table, so that when I'm making reference to certain columns, originally at least you have an idea of what the table speaks to. So the table essentially has only two columns, as you can see here. There is the month column, which essentially is the year and month, and there is the average pump price naira column, which is essentially how much fuel was on average during those months. So from here you can see for 2023, in January, the average price of fuel was 195 naira. By February, increased to 196. By March, 209 naira. By April, 227. By May, 213. So if you see me calling the column average pump price in naira, at least with this picture of this table, you know what it's seeking to achieve. If you see me calling the column month, you know what it's seeking to achieve. So these are essentially the two columns. Now, if I'm to try to answer the question of what was the change over time, who can tell me the graph that we will be using to try to demonstrate this?
Change, like, trend, yeah, different.
Yes, line graph. So because we have time here and we have the amounts. So now that at least we understand this conceptually, we can now go into calling this graph. So remember, let me run this again so that before, remember, this is our axis. So now I want to populate that table on this axis now. So the next code you see is me trying to populate the table on the axis. So just for the purpose of, so that I can always come back to this illustration, let me use a new code block. But if you want to continue typing it on the same code block, that's also fine.
Go back to the. You agree? Discussion.
But it is DMS underscore.
So now you're starting to understand the reason why I had to differentiate the fig and the axe for you. Because now I want to plot on the axis. I'm applying the plot function on axis, and I'm telling it, take the PMS, the column, months, remember square brackets is how we indicate column. Take the months and take the other column, average prompt price, and plot it on the axis. Then show me the plots. So whoever has run it should tell me what they are seeing as their results. Nothing. Interesting. Well, there's still some customization that we'll do. So let's add a color to our graph.
Scroll. Let's see. Follow. Follow what?
Bringing it. There for see shaky. Shaky. Oh, okay. Wow, beautiful. So let's copy it.
Let me explain the error that happened.
Yeah.
You know, here I had created a figure which is like a drawing board and an axis. So it's like, you know how you have drawing paper, you open one page. Then by going to a new block, it's like I'm now saying I don't want to draw on that paper again. I want to draw on a different paper. But now I didn't specify that I want to create this thing on a paper. So you run this thing, but there was no paper for it to draw it on.
Place it.
Does that make sense? So what that means is for every graph we want to plot, this has to be the first line. This is essentially we bringing the paper that we want to plot the graph on before we start typing.
So let's see the line width.
Huh?
Let's see the line width.
Let me first of all remove it so that we appreciate what it's doing. Now remember, it has some default colors, and blue happens to be one of those default colors Python picks for practically any visualization. So what I had done was, if I had run it at first without separating that figure, this is how you would have seen our graph. Which, I mean, it's not the best, but you can see the line for starters, so you can read the trend ahead. So before we go into tampering with the axis, I just wanted to work on the line itself. No, I wanted you to see the before. No, it's before and after. So it will make sense that you just see it from that point where. So now, this is me putting back, putting the color that I like to use most times, which is teal. And teal is closer to green. So you see the difference now. Now the next thing I did, which is still on this plotted graph, is to increase the line width. So this one now is subjective. If you feel this, like how, I don't know whether MS Word does this, like adding border to the shape.
Yes.
You know, so MS Word does it,
Yes.
right? So like making it thicker. So the number you specify here is now how thick it would be. So let's say, for instance, if I went as far as 7, you see what comes out.
Oh, that's nice.
So if maybe your director is complaining that the line is not showing well, you know where to alter. That is the line width you're working with for that. So, but for me, I just want to use something a bit subtle. You don't need to follow me. You can use whichever one you feel you would like to see on your own graph. Everything that you're doing on your system is for you. So do we understand the customization up to this point?
Yeah.
Okay. Are we able to see the text enough, or should I zoom it? So if there was a particular shape of teal that I wanted, what would I do?
You get the color code.
Okay. I just wanted to see whether we remember what we did yesterday. So do I proceed?
Yes.
Okay. So, like we rightly said, as much as we have a plot this plot is not presentable yet. You can't send this to anyone. Anyone you send this to will just bounce your report back. Yes. So, he just took exactly what we asked it to do. We told it plot month by amount. So, if there were 1 million months, it will try to fit in all the 1 million months into the axis. For it is garbage in, garbage out. So this is why I said we're driving a manual car. You're now going to be manually specifying what you want. If not, it will do exactly as you say by default. So now, what are all the things we can spot in this graph that we would like to work on?
The x-axis.
The x-axis, which is very obvious.
How's this logo? Okay.
Well, it starts from 0, technically. Yes. It's just based on it's incremental in hundreds. And it was trying to, but it does start from 0, and it's what it assumes to be 0. And that rule applies more to a bar chart, just to make it more specific. It applies more to a bar chart. So for starters, if I didn't tell you that this graph is speaking to petroleum prices, would you know anything about what these numbers are speaking to?
Okay, leave there. You didn't leave there.
So you look at the y-axis. What is y-axis? You don't know. Is it count? Is it currency? You don't know. Is it so? Now we need to customize the information around the plot. Okay. So the next set of codes that I will be putting are geared towards that first customization of, okay, at least let the plot have a title, and let the axis to have some form of title so that someone can make sense out of that. So remember, we're still working on the axis. Okay, so like I had expressed earlier, this information we want to put now, are we putting it on the figure or the axis? Yes, this information we're discussing about, does it relate to the figure or the axis?
The figure.
Are you sure? So I have a question. If I had two axes here, like two graphs inside this figure, and I use figure to name it, where will figure now place it to? Let's say the two graphs are two separate types of graphs that speak to two separate things. So one is for petroleum price, the second one is for kerosene price. And then I'm now using this is a graph for petroleum prices on figure. Where will figure place it? Okay. So even the label too, because it's what is plotted within this axis that we're trying to also describe. That's also why we're going to use the axis. So that if for whatever reason we want to add a new thing to this figure, the axis information will move with wherever the axis moves. And that new axis information would also be wherever that axis is. So it's not like we can't put the title on the figure. But I'm just trying to help you understand why I want to now put it on the axis instead. You understand? Everything here is nitty-gritty customization, but you can do the two. So eventually I'll also show you how to put it on the figure. If that's the only thing that you want to put inside that image.
This one is more good.
Yes, to name the axis, you have to use the axis. So, for just to clarity. So what would be a good title to use for this? Like
The petroleum prices will rise.
So it's months. You say it's months because I only showed you that part. But you said the data is from 2023 to end of 2025. So just like what I did in the plot, I can also add some customization like the font size. Let's see, I want to use 14. These are the ones that type most of those. Autocorrect has within most of them. Font weight. I think the font weight go. This log means which location or part of the axis do I want to align it to. Is it the left, the center, so we can play around it to see the different variations. So I'll change this one to
No, that's it. There's a title.
price. You know, this text. So I can go and even search for Naira symbol. Copy Naira symbol. For those of you that feel my keyboard does not have it, so you can copy it.
Yo, this is ah.
CPNS.
It's always good to indicate the unit of measurement, okay, your axis. So that's why I went as far as looking for this.
The mirror sign.
Yes. So I think we can run this and see how it looks. It's not right.
All right.
Sorry, I'm just.
Okay, relax. Relax.
LOC's location. So you see now, if you push this petroleum price, I make it center.
Yeah.
If I make it right. So,
Sir, it's too tiny.
what is too tiny?
The font board, we can't see it from here.
Is there something
We
we
try to.
So there was something else I was trying to demonstrate. For you, right was.
It's okay like this.
So at this stage, who wants to explain this code?
So, based on my understanding, I think you use the code AX title. So we want to insert the title on for the petrol, for the horizontal and vertical. You use petrol price over the last 2 years. Then you want the font size of that one to be 16, and you want that place to be the font to be bold, and you want it on the center. Okay, so now you change to italics. Okay. All right. So to bold it and to be on the center. Okay. Then the next command was for the X level, months. The font size should be 14 months, and the font size is 14. And the other font size is 16. You can see the difference on the for petrol price over the last 2 years. Then for Y level, you didn't want, you did okay. For the Y level is still also 14. So all of them are 14, 14. Then you now ask the Python to plot it so that you can see. That's error is not there. So you can see because he added Naira per liter, Naira per liter just appeared on that place. That's the comment. Thank you.
Yeah, so if it's dollar, you either write USD there or you find the dollar symbol and put there. Don't worry, we still have a lot of customization to still do. Are you wishing the country well? You might feel tired now. I'm sorry for you because what we still have is long.
Who's that?
I think that today is not funny.
So have we copied up to this point?
Very small. You're still on it.
How did you spell it? You know what? Isn't American English know what call it? And so if you spelled it Sanders, TRE, it might not work.
You know the right thing. You're not talking. I finished running now.
So have you seen the comment I put for our next? What I want to work on next? Remember, we were complaining that we can't make sense out of any of this parts of the x-axis. So I want to find a way to make it more legible. So that in case you're putting all of that in one place, at least through the comments, you can be knowing what each section. So if you want to use different, because when I was doing my practice, I was using different code blocks. So what I would do is, if you want to use different code block, it means you copy everything here, for instance, create a new code block, paste it here, and then update the code from here. So that with each code block, you can be keeping track of the different changes. I mean, since you're learning, I would recommend that for you. Maybe I should start doing that so that you know what each part of the
Still at step by step.
yes. But the important part is this, nothing will run if this pig is not here.
Yeah. Board is able to see.
Because that's your drawing board. So now, okay, this is even good, sir, because we can see how the old month is looking. So there was something we used yesterday when we were trying to work on the axis with C1. What was that thing? Huh? I remember saying, and the rotation was in the particular library.
You don't his.
No, all X sticks exactly. All those few rotations, they were under the X sticks function. I remember I told you that X sticks is part of matplotlib. So just to let you know that we are going to use something similar to in this particular area. So remember, this is the axis that we're working on. So we say axis set x sticks. Now, the only way we can work on this is if we display this in form of range. You understand? So rather than display every single month, we can say, let's say from month 1 to month 4. That's one x-axis. From month 4 to month 8, that's another x-axis, which is what we do practically in our own graphs, right? You don't need to display every single thing. Then you know in between are the individual months. So we're going to use that approach so that it's almost like we're displaying it on a quarterly basis. So with the x6, we're going to call on the range function. And we'll say it starts from 0 to, now this next thing, what it means, LEN means length. So we're saying from 0 to the length of the data frame. So you call the name of your data frame here. Some people say their own as PMS. Some people followed me with the way I put PMS underscore DF. But the point is you call the name of whatever you use in setting your data frame. So you're saying from 0 to the length of this data frame, I want you to space it in 4s. That's, for me, I'm using 4 because I feel every 4 months is 1 quarter. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. This 4 is not supposed to be outside. Let me first of all run this to see. Is it better?
Yes.
Compared to the first one? Does this make more sense?
Mhm. Okay.
So if, for instance, this particular, if we were having the issue we were having yesterday, we could still decide to now utilize the S-stick label to slant it. I'm just putting this now for the purpose of knowing, even though it seems to look good as it's straight. So we're calling on the S-stick labels function, and we're making reference to where our data frame is. For me, remember it is PMS underscore BF. If you save it as something else, use that. And we're making reference to the column, which is the months column, because that's what was plotted. Which, like our code above, what this code now does is to emphasize that it is done in force, which was what we did above. And we're saying this partner is what you're familiar with. Rotation. Let's say 45 degrees, just like yesterday. And remember the HA, which my good friend is not here. Horizontal alignment. So we use so if we run at this stage, now notice it's now rotating. If you prefer it straight, then you don't need to customize. Remember, this is the label. So that's why we call it directly extinct labels. How was it?
Your rabbit doesn't come up this way. My rabbit house. Look over me. Does they come? Does they come? He said, no, now, my friend now. We're gonna be friends again. No. Okay, so I'll go tell her. So I'm not be friends again. Hey, you go okay, I don't do something with that. This one, I don't know, talking about okay, no, not Where's mom? Get the way. What? I just try to do that, so good. So that later. You ask me why? Are you dreaming? Be careful. So what's called winning? Yeah. That's not. Ambassador. Ambassador. That's not the one to talk about. Only Italian, Chinese God. You went to school at Lawrence. I don't know what other people. That's from the beginning. I go with it. Good day, I go with an answer. He said I should just complete it. So crack break.
The other, so where is it now? In the next two hours. Finding common.
Why are we using after month?
So we're indicating to it that the labor we're working on is under the PMS labor, under
Where
the
will
month's
we put our
cost,
work?
and we have
Next month,
applied the
that's fine.
count in force order, which was what we did get. So, for instance, if we didn't do it, what it would be expected? It would be expecting to do this rotation on every count under which, like, this is what is expected. So if this was the case, we would have applied it by default, so it just does it on every count. But now we have changed this default and done it in false. You understand? So each student needs to know that the labels that you're working on is in false. So that's what this is trying to indicate for it. So that's why when it now comes here, it knows that after this first one, I'm supposed to count 4 before I apply the distance label, and another 4, and apply, and another 4, and apply. Yeah? How is the uncoordinate? How? Like this first one? Oh. Have you applied these 2 lines?
If I use simple semicolon,
No. This one. It's just how the code is. At this point, you need to just understand the language.
yes, I'm blocking you.
Yes.
Are we good? So for a good number of us, a graph like this can even fly for most of what we want to do. It has at least a lot of the fundamental information, but we can still decide to go further in our customization, which is what I want us to do. Remember, I had made reference on our day 6, that the idea of your visualization is in as short time as possible. You want the person looking at your graph or your visualization to pick all the important messages. So if you look at this, you'll notice that there is a spike from here. Everything seems to be growing gradually, or maybe not gradually, but it has a pattern. But for some reason, from here to here, there's a sharp spike. Now, the natural question anybody that looks at this thing will ask you is, what happened during this time that led to this particular spike? Who can tell me what happened during this time? Where was COVID-19? We are seeing this time frame. So what happened? There wasn't included. Subsidy was included. So, but someone who sees this graph and is not a Nigerian, or maybe was in the diaspora and wasn't following the daily news, might not know. So you now, you know based on, and see how long it took you to know. Even though we are Nigerians, it took us close to 7 seconds to figure out that it was subsidy. So we want a situation where, even within this graph, when we're showing someone, at first glance, every normal person will want to know what happened here. That's the first thing that will come to their head. So why the sharp increase? Something is not normal around here. So because this is meant to tell a story, we also want to guide whoever is the first, because like you said, this is the first question that will be asked. And for our insights to make sense, it has to be able to answer most of those important questions. So we want to be able to do a pointer around here, expressing what happened here, so that if, like I said, for some reports, this is good enough, you understand? But if you want to fulfill most of those rules I put out there, where under 3 seconds, someone is able to understand your graph, it makes more sense that you highlight those important aspects. So the next part of what we're going to do is tailored to achieve that particular objective. So I will advise you, like before, to just copy this code, because we're going to be updating it, and create a new blog, except you're comfortable using the existing one. If you feel it won't confuse you when you want to go back, no problem. So there's a professional name for this thing that we're about to do. They call it annotation. Let me Google the meaning so that I'm sure that. So you see the meaning of the word annotate. Are we following? To add explanatory notes, comments, or critical remarks to a text, image, or diagram. It is the act of providing context, insight, or clarification to make complex information easier to understand. So in that case, like we said, we're trying to provide some context as to what happened within that sharp rise, so that when you see this comment annotation, you understand what I'm referring to by using annotation. If you want to go into more grammar, feel free. So, I mean, we might not be able to tell that here because we have collapsed a lot of the columns, but this is May, and this particular spike took place sometime between May and June. That was when, if you look at the raw data, you'll notice that that was when it happened. So, we are going to create a pointer that will point at June, because it's June that the actual peak of the spike was reflected. And on that point, I will have an annotated text that just gives a brief expression of what happened there. So I'm going to first of all create a variable called June. And remember, when we were using tables, we talked about the index, right?
Yes.
You saw that before every proper table, there's an index. Where does an index start from?
0.
0. So for me to explain where June is, we need what the table understands the most is that index. So we need to guide it to know where to find June on the table. So that is what we're now going to do with our code. So I'm going to call the table, which we save it as PMS.
Underscore DF.
So there are two ways to this.
But I think you see this, this annotation don't finish you now.
It's annotated now.
You're mama show.
For him to finish. So let's wait for him to finish typing.
Everybody wants to catch up.
The copy everything.
You are copying. Go.
So there was a good suggestion on how to go about this, but I realized you might find yourself in a position where the table is too big and you don't know how to spot the index. So that's why I'm using this approach. So while we might do it manually and find out that June is index 5, if for whatever reason the table has so many rows and we don't have the time to actually settle down and count, or there might be the possibility of error. What we're saying is utilize the index function, go to the column under the data frame month and find what matches 2023 June, because that was how we imputed columns there. Remember, there are several Junes. There's June 2024, there's June 2025. So remember this sign, the double equals to, is a boolean, which means you're looking for exactly this. So it will scan through all the rows on the table, searching for anything that matches 2023 June. And when it sees it, it's going to return it as true. So when it finds it, it's now going to trace it down to the index column and now pick what the column for that particular one is and work with it. Now, after that, we are going to create another variable called price. And under that price, I'm trying to locate the price for June. Now remember, when I write June, I already created the variable June here. So anything that was the result of this entire code, it's now applies here. So like we agreed, the result of this entire code based on the index number will be 5. So now we're saying track the location under this database, location 5 in the index. Are we following that part? I know it's a bit of typing, but I just want to explain it before I go further. And the column average pump price. So the first code was to look for where June is. The second code, we want to pick the price. So we're like, when we found the index of where June is, collect whatever is under the column, average pump price for that particular row. Does that make sense? So we tracked the number of the row June is, and now we're getting the price that is linked to June. So when you reference June, it comes to this June, finds the index that speaks to June, then now comes to the full pump price and finds the pump price that was attached to that particular index number. So that's how it knows where to put its pointer on in the actual chart. So now, now we want to now officially call on the annotate function. where we now add the manual text we want it to display at that point. So we can say, well, subsidy was removed. Now it knows where to point to, but we also want to draw, we don't want the text to just be at that place it's pointing to. You understand? Because we cover that one point. So now we want the text to be maybe somewhere further away and there's like a ruler pointing to it. We want to separate the text from that particular point. So now this next part is to handle the position of where the text would be. So we're going to use something that might look a bit complicated to people, but it's coordinates. So we're defining where the first coordinate is, which is June and price. Remember, these are variables now that it has been able to get from here. So when it sees the first coordinate, June and price, it gets it to, or it gets a particular point on the graph that speaks to June and price that we define. Now the next coordinate we're setting is xy x, which is where we want to position the text. So we can say June plus 3, which is 3 spaces away from wherever the column June is. And for the y-axis, which speaks to price, price so this is where to place the text based on the axis. Let me put the comments here so that's more fully. This is where the x axis minus sign, the arrow sign. Then we can define the color of the arrow. So this color is just for the arrow. Also wants the text itself to match. The color of the text is red. So with my comments, do we understand what the different codes would do?
Yes.
For starters, we're identifying the points and we're finding where the index for months, the months that we want to point to, we're finding the index number. We're trying to identify what is the price that is tied to that index number. So now we've found the point. We now want to understand, okay, what is the text we want to write in the annotation, which is fuel subsidy was removed. Now, we have put the text, we have found the point where the text should point to. How do we point it? Now, where do we drop this text on our axis? Which location on our axis do we drop the text? Now, we're saying the text is intended for June price, or the point is supposed to be pointing to its June price, and the actual text itself, based on this is the reference point, it should sit 3 spaces away from wherever June is on the x-axis, and then on the y-axis, it should sit around minus 230. Then, based on that empty space, within it, we want to draw a line, and that line, the style we're using is the arrow, and the color we want to color it is red. Then for the text itself, we want the text to be red and the weight of the text to be bold. So if I were to run this my updated code now, sorry, I will come back to the text.
Betty, have you catch the python? The python have catch you.
The python medium. Python, the python medium.
Yay, I got it. Is out here, I've got it. You're still checking your own, I've gotten my own. Yes, I did.
No, for me, there was a bracket that I'm missing. So,
Sit down, sit down. Yes, Sabi. You say that person when Sabi, they even use that thing.
For your mind.
Yes. Ah, Christ.
Let me start going to the How's the video faster? Is it? Really fast.
That's why they do copy and paste.
I bet every copy of this. Yeah, I can get you.
Because the giver was getting
before you go for lunch, I'll fix my code. For those of you that
Don't
got
forget
your
break.
oh, sorry, tea break. Yes.
Yep.
There is a comma, a bracket that is still open.
Yeah, don't be paying me.
Always the same.
And now we do not want to proceed. This is how your outputs ideally should come out. So the error I've done was I called the annotate function, and the annotate function is supposed to cover everything from here to here. The only reason that because I was using comments, I was breaking it. So I forgot and I went to put a bracket here and close the function. So all these other things did not run under that function.
They're not a victim.
Yeah, because everything here speaks to annotation. So the bracket, the first bracket and the end bracket is supposed to cover everything, but I now mistakenly close the bracket before the end.
What you need to say annotation, please? Then, I want to see. Okay.
Madam Faith, never as they come home. Yeah. They got carry you. Yes, they have taken. I've taken. I never carry. I'm coming. This is how they feel like you.
No time.
This is so impressive. I see.
Pleasure, Alpha. The pleasure. Alpha. Our department, I will go.
Timmy, if you want to try something, let me give it to my children. Last time you left your own work. If you want to try to do it, okay? Madam, what's her name? She's not around. What's her name? Madam Agi. Madam Agi.
I told you also.
Where is she?
I will share with you now. I'm sharing with you.
Where's Madam Agi?
Pastor, good morning.
Oh, baby. Where is she?
How are you?
All right.
So, I mean, for those that feel the code is too hard, you can still export the picture and use arrow on your MSO to draw and put text.
But it's interesting. Seeing the final result.
Eh?
Seeing the final result is interesting.
It's what?
Interesting.
Oh, yeah. You see? It is set. That's fine. That's fine. I'm just saying, I just wanted to show you how to do it within Python itself.
Why do you do although? They're from Badagry.
Why did you feel it?
Lagos, I don't want to do Lagos. I know it's not from Lagos.
And I say yes.
Why from Lagos?
Yeah,
Lagos State.
Yes, no, that's Lagos State.
That's why you want to say no, and that's what you say.
Okay, the way I say it, shout.
Lagos is not a state. I'm from Lagos. I haven't go.
You feel like this one.
Peru Remo. Ogumba. I don't tell you. You have to dialect. You have to dialect. Like that.
Igba and Ijemu. Anyewa is three. Major. They are major, they are just even if you go to Ondo, you get lost. And you get it as your own different. Kampala Utu is different from They always kill their own just like Kaduna, Hausa, that's how someone is getting and Oshi is only state that has national anthem. His own national anthem.
Actually, let me play. He doesn't know now. Let me play for him. I like Oyo. That's why I asked him that. But I don't even understand what
We can speak mainland, we can speak. No, not all. You can speak assembly, you can speak. Those, I know those are still few people that anything. There is one.
yes, well, not central. In the North Central, we have who are flying to Yoruba, some are flying to Hausa like that, like my area. Which Hausa? Yoruba. Yes, you are right. But she's right. Yeah? Like my side, like my own side, we are partly Benin, partly Ondo. Can you see it? So that's why most of our names, they say that they're like Yoruba. Why the culture is like that of Edo to do. This is
Once calm down now.
no, it's not the about myself. Not that it's Kaba language is more Yoruba and more Yoruba. But you know that if I've seen something in my dialect, 50% of what I've been saying is Yoruba. Yoruba, but I'll say it in another form that you may understand it with this thing. Yeah, not of those words. I think. Like you pick one or two, or you'll be able to pick one or two. People if open people are, you'll be able to pick something. No. That one,
Anything must
they agree, but I think the people that actually have that
anything must be they try to differentiate their own self from
the smallest Yoruba, this is the
they are the same.
no,
It's not yeah, Lagos is among all
not a population. What is that? Not population.
no, they have their
No, Lagos not there. No, I mean where you have places like I want to go down. You should go. Where you are you? Sorry, but after my guy. Yeah, so Allah is a character. Bokara Baba. Lala Bari. Hausa? No, I can speak your language, your language if you permit me.
Yes, why?
If only you answer me, let's say if you are not answering me,
Let her answer.
let's answer. I think that or your if you play. Okay, next. What's not for?
talking about farm.
Ogun.
No, I said
At work.
no, let me get what.
Afiamma.
You are missing.
Thank you. Is it okay?
I hear you. I hear you now. I think your house. Come on, yours. Take it. Voilà. Instead of voilà. Odo.
Ife.
Question.
Okay. So you don't have. Yeah, Edo.
Tai.
So you get Yoruba name. Instead of Edo.
No, yeah.
Okay.
Edo has Yoruba name.
It's close to us. Which part of the Akoko is that?
Akoko Edo.
Is that okay? You speak Hebrew now.
So the first is
You should be able to understand what they speak.
They speak it well.
It's close to us. Actually, the same accent. And I said, okay, you understand about that. No, you wouldn't.
You stay in it.
Because it looks like one of them. Dark. Dark like them. I hear you are darker like them. You are dark in complexion like them. You said people. But you are not dark.
No, it's also. Okay, I just played you wrong. But you've not been, you can also say
So I've not so many questions.
You know, if you speak for
well, not just this.
there is one thing that is very significant.
Like mountainous.
They used to say
Oh, it's not the disciple sound. I think they call them which side is that? You need to be all what? You think they not come up? I didn't think. Came up but I thought that it came with all those okay, I just have to speak. Okay, through online. So, you know what am I going to do? Yes, please.
You don't like it. If I don't control.
Okay, brother. So, now, every time I want to do that,
For already was shooting.
Honestly, this just stop all of this.
Last time I said, yesterday, the radio was so they go compare you to the one today. It will be that crowd. It will be that
I've told them.
whether in gender dimension.
Gender, weather.
Climate change in weather dimension.
Okay, even Roland too. Roland too. That's why. Well, that's not how they give you sleep.
Roland is now.
Huh?
I think it's part of it.
Huh?
Roland.
It's part of it. Today here, your men just go left and center. You know, to go do
Roland
waking
in
them.
different direction.
You go do waking them. May you carry everybody.
Check out. Yeah, see it by yourself.
There's only possibility.
I hope that
Can we proceed? Are we being able to run out? Did it work?
My own work.
Okay, so if you run your code, this would be the most likely output you will have. Now, before we proceed to the next thing that I would like to show us, let me just touch on one very little marginal thing here. So, and the reason I'm touching on this is so that in case you encounter that problem in future, you will not say I only gave you tested and the main suya without it from you.
We don't use.
Uh-huh. So there's a problem with my hand here. You see, this fuel subsidy was removed. If we want to make it longer, let's say fuel subsidy, let's say we want to make it more detailed and say fuel subsidy was removed on June 2023, shortly after the general
Your own language.
Now, are you seeing the problem I'm having?
Yeah, it's outside.
It's outside. So, if where would be a good place to truncate this thing and carry it to a new line? No. So we know it's outside. I'm saying, hey, sorry.
It's a lie. It's a lie.
Sorry.
What did they do with Allah? I don't know. Although they are afraid. I don't know.
So I'm saying, if you were typing this thing manually, let's say on Word, and you saw how it came out, and you didn't like it, and you wanted to take a part of it to a new line, which part of this thing will you prefer to press that enter key so that it goes to a new line? So for you say from here. For you say shortly. Okay. So let's maybe work with shortly and see how. So the idea is to carry shortly and bring it here so that everything's a bit within the same block. If you say it's general election you want, you can still, when I show you what you do, you can still apply it to general election.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's just how to enter a new line in a string. Because if you don't put this code, it won't be able to know that you want to enter a new line. So in front of shortly, I'm going to put the dash symbol. I'm going to put the backward slash and N. Dash, backward slash, and N. These are the three things I put. So the N helps it know it's a new line. Python already recognizes this. So any string where it puts this in front of that string, it will take it to a new line. So by the time we run this, have you seen the difference now?
So can you do that?
You have to move it.
So I said the dash symbol, the backward, is this a forward slash or a backward slash?
The backward slash.
Okay, backward slash and N. You don't need to copy what I wrote. You already know the context. If you want to write it as subsidy was removed from June 2023, the idea is to write a longer line. If you want to even go as far as writing by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on his first day of office, no problem. The point is, when you're adding a new line, just know that whatever you're using for it is dash, backward slash, and N. If you want to make it 4 lines, it means for every part you want to make into a new line, you're going to put these 3 things just in front of that word.
So what if before you because I can see that you finished writing everything before you put the slash backward and shortly. What if you're typing and you know exactly what will happen, and you now put it and then continue your typing, not necessarily finishing all the typing before
Anyhow,
putting.
anyhow, for Python, the point is whenever it's reading a string,
Yeah.
if it comes in contact with this combination in this order,
He knows
it doesn't matter when you put it.
Okay, fine.
That's how it will treat it. It doesn't treat this as a normal string. It knows that this is you saying, I want to go to a new line. You understand? So even in the formal strings that we put, if there's another place, let's say we're trying to call the title of the table, okay? And in that title, I put this thing in the title. It's still going to carry that title where I put it and go to a new line. So as far as strings are concerned, this is how you go to a new line. This is the equivalent of enter on your keyboard. So I just wanted us to see this so that if for whatever reason, whatever you're doing is longer and it's now distorting your image.
Minus but
It worked for you. This is standard, I know. And I'm not doubting it, I'm just saying. No, you have to put the three together. If you put only dash, that should show in the text. Dash, forward, and end. Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, okay. Okay. So it's forward slash and end, that is the main thing. See, I always get confused with this thing. This one is backwards. Eh? The dash will show on the so we're taking out the dash. So the main thing is the backslash of the line, which is end.
My face
But I've
is
always
slash.
been confused.
It's
Which one is
slash. Now you
slash?
usually see it as slash. Slash.
To be honest, sometimes I know it, sometimes I don't know it. So it's Google that helps me simplify this matter. Okay. So this backward slash because it's slanting backwards. Okay, so that's the logic. Wherever it's slanting. Okay. I've always been confused, but now I think I know what to use. Wherever it's slanting. Yes. So you can still find ways to break it again.
My screen, don't worry. Don't know
So
what
if the text you use
getting the Anyway, the thing is this what you are explaining, this studying, and that's what you are looking for. So your explanation can be here, as far as it's not outside.
Yeah, not blocks. Yeah. So you already called it. DLT, not that. Like you already passed through. Which is the same as that is. The same. You next to I know the same. Oh yeah, these are the
Okay, so we're going to move further now. As usual, in a bid not to confuse ourselves,
Okay.
let's copy the, because we still want to build on this code. Or
She also disclosed students from the Nigerian Economic
so I'm going to
Students
copy this.
and Nesta, Federal Cashier, Bureau by April.
Go to a new code.
The person talking is still taking
Videography, Mr. Gino, who joined John during the visit and Women's Day celebration. He appreciated the project and encouraged us to maintain good behavior, come together as a family and work towards the goal.
So for some people,
of the Bureau.
this is as far as they might want their chat to go. So what I'm going to show now is, I mean, I'm still going to edit this chart a bit further. But let me say, if for whatever reason this is where you're satisfied with stopping with your visualization, what we want to show now is how to save this particular chart that you have developed. So to save it,
Sorry, Mr. Ochen. This information that we have now, can you still use SML to get all this? As in using this very code now, can you input it in
what?
that yesterday's Sebon? If you cannot use all those syntax, okay, you can still.
All these things are running on monthlies. Like the problem with Seaborn is this area where the line is. You see this box? Anything inside this box is Seaborn. Then it's outside. Remember when we were doing the core edit? Sorry, I forgot about the mic. When we were doing the core edit for yesterday, where we were trying to adjust the axis and all that, we were calling on MATLAB and MATLAB libraries. But for the basic edits on the color of the image, it was with Seaborn. Seaborn doesn't really give you too much customization options. It's like it already has a preset that it feels you need, and it uses those presets for you. But if you want to go granular in your customization, because I told you Seaborn is running on MATLAB engine. So if you want to go granular, you now have to go to the source where Seaborn is using to generate its own visualization, which is the matplotlib, which is what we are using now to do our own visualization. You understand? But if what you want is some basic standard charts and all that, Seaborn already has those things automated. So if it's just for quick chart on this, quick chart on that, you can go to Seaborn for that. But if you're developing a specific kind of report and you want to show as much details as possible, then you come to mark plot leave. So that's why I decided to introduce this one second and that one first. So now let's assume, like I said, you're already fed up with what we have done and you want to just save at this stage and export, or at least share to your colleague to give them an idea of what you have done so far. What area of this thing you feel will be using? Will it be the axis or the figure? If we want to save now, remember from the beginning of our code, I made reference to two things. That there are two components in this whole thing. There's the axis and there's the figure. If I want to save what we've done so far, what am I going to be calling on between these two?
The figure.
Okay. I just wanted to, because I mean, before you see the syntax, I want us to be thinking like programmers too. So that you also know why the code is following the pattern it's following. So now we are going to make reference to the fig, and we're going to call on the save fig function. And we can call this, let me use their recommendation first. We can call it petroleum price dot PM. So remember, we agreed that we want to save the figure. So we're calling on the save fig configuration. And this is where we name the file, so that when we save it, it carries this name. Now, if I remove this comma and I run it, this will save. But remember when I said sometimes you might be saving for a different purpose. You might be saving for the purpose of, if I save it like this, it will use the default saving settings. You understand? But it might be a chart that, let's say, you want to create on a poster. And that way, by the time you go to UTC and they print it, you will now see that your chart is not very sharp. You understand? In that case, I can now go as far as determining the quality of resolution I want it to save as. So that if for whatever reason the chart is not for normal digital share and is for external print, when they stretch it, because of the pixel resolution I've set, it doesn't go out of place. So I might reach out to the person at UTC and ask them, hey, for printing this kind of thing, what is the recommended resolution that you people like to work with? You understand? They might tell me the number. All I now have to do is just enter that number as they told me. So the resolution is usually denoted as VPI. So let's say I've spoken with them and they told me, it should not be anything below 300 dpi. I'll just put that number, 300. Yeah. You understand? Like I said, this thing is just so that it is print ready. If it was for digital share, I wouldn't need to go as far as specifying that resolution. The thing will save by default as a picture that will be good enough for digital share. Then, because it's also something I would like to print, I'm going to add a different command called box inches.
B box.
B box inches, yes, it's correct.
Correct.
Yes.